Welcome. My name is Mandulo, and this is Sacred Conversations. I am a medicine woman, and I deal with breath, I deal with movement, I deal with sound, I deal with touch, not only through feeling, but through physical touch as well. I have a yoga background, I have a shamanic background, hence the medicine woman. And all this relates to lifestyle, wisdom of the body, as well as relationship. So there's just something I want to read to allow us to begin. Please just note that these messages, whatever you hear, sometimes it's going to resonate and sometimes it's not going to resonate with you. And when something like doesn't hit home or you get triggered, try not to make things fit where they don't need to fit. Just start to learn in that way. Just maybe this is for you, maybe this is not for you, and maybe this will be for you at some point in time, right? So the word today is acceptance. A little poem. When it is time to let go, there is dance with struggle, both attached to memory and what lies ahead. The old, I sometimes try and juggle. Instead of letting go, can I accept this moment as it is instead? So remember I spoke about that I also deal with relationship because everything is in relationship. So when we look at acceptance of what is, the relationship that it goes hand in hand with is non-acceptance. Other word associations is resistance. And when you are not accepting something as it is, you have a certain projection or expectation. And when you have a certain expectation, more often than not, unless you've been doing a deeper dive and taking that deep dive within your self-development and your healing journey, your spiritual journey, you're getting to know who am I, who am I at the heart of it. Because more often than not, unless you do a lot of self-development work or you inquire a lot more about yourself and life, becoming a student completely in every aspect and every way, then you gift yourself that freedom of not having to perfect something, and you can accept that this particular part of your journey is leading you towards the next. When you are projecting from your wounds, you are living from the past. So your past belief systems come through generational curses. They come through certain habits that were picked up from your parents, that you picked up from your parents and your grandparents as well. Your siblings, their interpretation of what they've picked up from your parents. Then there is the environment, the schooling system. Then there are your peers. Then there are just society that has projected a certain belief. And up until you inquire, why is it that you are attracting what it is in your life, specifically when it comes to feelings and sensations of chaos, disorder, wanting to move into a state of fight or flight. And sometimes when you can't even process, you move into the state of freeze, like you completely freeze, you can't think straight. And, it's almost like this paralyzed feeling. where anxiety is way higher than it needs to be for you. Stress is a natural thing for the body, because with anything that is going to infringe on our sense of survival, we need that our natural instinct needs us to sometimes fly or fight in a particular situation. But due to our lifestyle, the consumption of the types of foods, the consumption of food with what you see, what you hear, that's what you listen to, it all holds a certain vibration that will keep you stuck in the stories and the old. And once again, it goes back to, unless you've done the healing work to be able to recognize that that is not you. It is a part of you, and it has been a very, very important part of who you are, that informs who you are becoming. Right? So when you look at acceptance, a lot of times I use the word acceptance because, at least for me, it has a softer landing. And when I offer it to my clients, they also feel that sense of acceptance. They drop into it a lot more. It has an ease of accessibility to flow into, rather than surrender. Because when you look at surrender, and when you look at surrender, I wrote here, when it's time to let go, there is dance with struggle. Because when you have to let go of something, you must understand the reason why in which we acquire things in the first place is because we are trying to attain a certain feeling, a certain sense of validation within ourselves, status, right? To be seen, to be heard, and to be acknowledged of our existence and presence on earth. You understand? So when you are acquiring things, it holds a certain memory and belief that draws to feeling. So some people would be like, they would want to, let's say, I remember my mentor once connecting to me and saying that there was this more mature man in his 70s, and he made a lot of money, and he decided that he wants to become a DJ. And he said such a key thing, because he said it doesn't mean that he wants to become a DJ now necessarily, but he is leading in from his 14-year-old self, or between, let's say, 13 and 18. Perhaps there was resistance with his parents to DJ. So he's stuck in time in that period of wanting to fulfill that need and memory. So from that, he has been living his life to get that money to be able to enjoy his benefits and his fruits of his labor, right? We still, or some people still have that mentality of, you need to work up until a certain point and then only can you enjoy life. That's definitely an older system. It's still very necessary with certain aspects of it, maybe just not the intensity of it. So that memory was holding, that he had held on to, was important because it created a certain feeling. So then he goes into his life to get the money to be able to create that feeling again, right? So when you are letting go, what you are saying when you're saying surrender, just surrender it, just let it go. Like a lot of people in the space are just like, just let it go, just let it go. And yes, you can let it go, a more empowering way is to accept the cycle of death and life, the cycle of transformation, the cycle of alchemy, right? So the memory is connected to feeling. So a lot of life, why people could sometimes struggle with spirituality, is because it really requires that you use a whole lot of discernment, that you sit in experience, and you can't only base your wisdom on knowledge, which is history, and it's based on stuff that has been done. Even history is yesterday, right? You have to sit within the experience of it and understand that that same concept you might have will actually shift, because everything is circumstantial. And hence why spirituality is going to be a continuous study. It has become like this full-on science on what nature naturally does. It evolves, it transforms, it alchemizes, it transfers energy from one thing to the next. And we as humans try to understand that aspect of ourselves, that we are energy. We do not burn out. We simply alchemize. There's an alchemy. So when you're feeling a certain high vibration, it will allow you to see the opposite reflection of that. So sometimes you might dip into a deep rested state, so depression. So instead of being completely up and elevated, you'll be suppressed slightly. And unfortunately for a lot of society, when we go into that state of seeing the opposite of the highest level, that elevation, because it seems so extreme and opposite, we attach ourselves as it versus seeing it as it is. So that's where it goes into the acceptance. So that dance between, ooh, this holds so much memory and it's so much more comfortable for me to be in that position, versus let myself learn a new way of being. Let myself orientate around aspects that are new, that are trying to emerge within me, right? And then we go back to that dance. It's both attached to memory and what lies ahead. And memory holds fear sometimes. I've been sitting with this aspect of fear and excitement. Fear and excitement are the same feeling. I'll say that again. Fear and excitement are the same feeling. And I'll say this because I, this year in particular, have started singing a lot more and using my voice and uncovering certain aspects of myself that are expressing in ways that are completely new and exciting. And I remember doing a ceremony. A friend of mine was teaching the yoga part, and I was hosting the soundscape, the sound and voice frequency, using voice frequency. And I remember as I was beginning and I was trying to ground myself and settle in and be like, this is exciting. This is a new thing for me. It almost felt like my heart was trying to pop out of my chest. And the whole experience happened like so fast that I was guided to do the singing bowls and to move with the tunes and to allow it to shift into the room. So it's that relationship of observing what my friend was guiding, the students on the mat to flow with, and then having to bounce that back and let it just flow. That's that dance between that communication, that relationship of sound and voice through instruction, right? And something in me turned up and opened up my eyes, and I was looking at everybody being so connected deep into their body that I realized I had to pause, not the music, but pause myself and observe that feeling that I had been looking for, and that feeling that I had always thought wasn't, because it had moved from fear to excitement. So that is another way of being able to train your mind, right? To go from your old beliefs to your new beliefs by working on yourself, by inquiring and studying yourself, like really getting into self-study. And it doesn't have to be so intense. There are different levels of it. You can just use one thing and use acceptance for a whole month or for a whole week, and just go, let me see what acceptance is going to teach me today. And then let me see what it's going to teach me for 7 days, and see, as you start to use that as your form of intention and meditation, how your life shifts, right? If anything, what I love to do is ignite the awareness of intentional living. Become very, very intentional with how you live. Okay, so we do flow around, but it all ties into these readings when I move into them. And then it says, the old, I sometimes try and juggle. Instead of letting go, can I accept this moment as it is instead? So that's where it goes to juggling, trying to hold on to the old because it's so comfortable, versus what is emerging within you as something different, something new trying to come out of you, right? Because that's like stopping a meal. You had a feeling, you then had an idea of how you were going to get this meal because there was a certain craving and desire, a certain comfort you were trying to fulfill. And if you stop any of those processes, that means that you won't have the meal that you had desired from that idea. Do you know what I mean? So instead of letting go, can I accept this moment as it is? That it is allowing the next moment to be revealed, but from a point of presence, as a gift, that version of me yesterday needed to be there in order for me to receive this version of me today. So can we accept this moment as it is? And I'd like you to reflect on a particular thing that you might be moving through right now in your life. And it's always going to do with relationship, whether it is relationship with partner, with work, with relationship with stranger. It's always going to redirect itself back to you. What is your relationship with this saying about your relationship with yourself? So I encourage you to study yourself. Study yourself through other people, but don't try find yourself in other people. So accept the version of you that is no longer here. And that opposite of your elevation, that depression, is you losing that version of yourself. It's a we go through life and death cycles so fast. So we are constantly shifting through living grief. I'll speak about that at another point in another episode, but just simply everything is life and death, and we see that through the breath. As we breathe in, some things come in. As we breathe out, something has departed. Whether it's a thought, a version of ourselves, a belief, something has departed. So we're here to also honor those cycles of life and death, and what is the new that is emerging versus keeping the old. If it helps you in any way to accept that life is changing, that change is the only constant. And if you can release yourself and others from having to be consistent in order for you not to change, then you are doing yourself a serious amount of disservice with the gifts that you have come to share, with the magical life that you have come to live, with the impact that you have come to have on everyone that you connect with in some level. My wish for you is to allow transformation to happen in your life. There is someone in there that is full of magic and full of life. That version exists within you. Definitely. And I'm speaking to someone who might be going through depression in this moment and deep anxiety. And I'd love to offer what Jim Carrey said about his spiritual friend or teacher. And he said, depression, when you break it down, is your body needing deep rest from the character that you have been playing. And it goes back to what I spoke about, the elevation, seeing the opposite, that as soon as something comes, it goes. This too shall pass. And we hold deep sacredness for that, deep reverence for that aspect. From playing that character and carrying that old version with you into the new. Gift yourself the ability to change. Start to do things that make you uncomfortable, because a higher version, a truer, the most authentic version with you lies there. When you think it's fear, shift your mind that it is excitement. There's an aspect of you that is excited, yet so a lower aspect of you is fearful that it's going to recreate the past. And I'd just like to release you, help you release you from that in gratitude and in prayer. That thank you that you have released yourself from inflicting the old belief system that has kept you in low vibration, that has kept you in this deep search and pursuit for happiness versus being content. Thank you that you can accept this moment as it is. You can give yourself gratitude for all the versions of you that have led you to this podcast, this episode, the sacred conversation. Thank you that you are willing to instill within yourself the discipline to become the best version of yourself. Thank you with a willing heart that you are completely open to build a better relationship with discomfort, and that you will allow yourself one thing: slow steps, baby steps, with deep exploration, with deep love, with playfulness and curiosity, with a deep sense of adventure of who is this? Who am I? How much more is possible within me? I thank you and am grateful that your eyes become more open to see that which is ahead. I'm so grateful that you can allow yourself the gift of transcending the human narrative and stories and pain, and seeing the perspective of beauty and magic that lies in between what you might think is your obstacle is actually an opportunity. So I'm so grateful now that you see your obstacle as an opportunity, or rather you see the opportunity in any obstacle that you might find yourself in. And in finding that opportunity, you accept that you're willing to do the work that is required for the next version of yourself, who can accept, who can feel complete love, who can feel divine union, who can feel whole within yourself, who can understand the power that you contain, and that has been contained, that wants to unravel and be revealed to the world, to be seen, to be felt and heard with all of your glory. I wish that for you, and I pray that you will experience that version of yourself, the most joyful and the most content and the most peaceful. I wish that for you. I'm sending you so much love and gratitude. Be grateful. Be really, really grateful for all that we have. You are enough. You have enough. Therefore, you can only be enough. With buckets, 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 buckets full of love. I am signing out now. I've got to go sleep. Mandula.